So we've all heard about Obamacare, right? And it's actually called the Affordable Health Care Act, but I'm going to talk about kind of why that's a politically driven term and why I personally support it. The reason that side of the political field calls it Obamacare with such a nasty snarl is because in general a lot of pharmaceutical companies and the representatives of such tend to fund a lot of Republican agendas that it's historically kind of been their political party they ally with. So because you know the biggest thing about this now this passes is going to make it a lot more harder to get profits out of insurance companies, and that's kind of their main thing is we're going to lose all this money. You know, we can't do this. And, you know, so there's that. And then there's the flip side of the coin. Like when my grandfather died, actually, he fell and had an internal hemorrhage in his brain. They had to take a helicopter to transport him 68 miles to Duluth. Unfortunately, he died. But afterwards, they sent my grandmother a bill for $18,000 because the insurance company refused to pay it. They thought that was a medically unnecessary measure, even though there was an emergency room physician that saw there were 3 different serious bleeds in his brain, and their facility wasn't adapted to fix that kind of thing, so they had to send him out. They always try things like that. Otherwise, it's either that or you have a pre-existing medical condition, so now we're not going to cover this procedure that probably doesn't have anything to do with that pre-existing medical condition. And so the main thing I really like about the Health Care Act is that it keeps insurance companies, kind of puts them in check and keeps them honest by those types of measures. It doesn't let them deny people's claims for pre-existing conditions. So, I mean, even so, like, you know, if someone smokes all their life and they get lung cancer, well, yeah, it's their fault, true. But at least this way their families won't be burdened by their choice and their debt from that. So there's so many really good pluses. That's just a couple. On the flip side, some negatives that people say is that it's gonna raise our taxes so much and we're gonna have to pay this much. They're making it sound like a scary number, like thousands and thousands of dollars every year, and it's really not going to be that much. I think people forget that there's, you know, only about 6 or 7 billion people in the United States. You know, $50 here, $100 there, that adds up to a whole truckload of money you can do a lot with. And I personally wouldn't mind spending a couple $100s every year in my taxes, knowing that if I have a neighbor who's a college kid who doesn't have any insurance, gets smoked by a drunk driver in the middle of the night, that he's not going to be in debt for the rest of his life paying off medical bills and things like that. Even settlements from those types of accidents don't necessarily pay for everything. Another thing it does, it keeps prescription medication a little more widely available with the generics. And another thing that insurance companies are still doing in the past, that in the past and the present, that the Health Care Act will hinder their efforts on is trying to get in the way of prescription medications being prescribed. I've talked to a lot of physicians that express how annoyed they are sometimes by insurance companies over their shoulder saying, no, you got to prescribe this because we want to push this for this condition, even though that their years of training and practice say that this is the best drug for it. So there's so many complications and downfalls of the current system right now that it would only make sense if we had everybody on the same system, so that way we could have a healthy America. Healthy Americans work more, healthy Americans provide more to the economy, they provide to the world, really. So why not go for something that's going to make us as a society better? Think of how many people are dying from complications of diseases just because they can't afford them, like, you know, diabetics all in the middle of the country, or they can't afford their insulin for another 3 weeks, so they just gotta take it easy for a little while, and then they end up getting more complications like their feet are falling off, you know, just an example. So I think the Affordable Health Care Act's a good thing for the country. And I'm hoping it's probably, well, it just got through the Congress, so hopefully it'll stay that way. So I know how I'm voting. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.